will give us even a bit more of an insight into the book of Proverbs. And then we're going to have a quiz. Kids versus adults, which we love. And some of the quiz questions are based on this video. So we want to be watching and listening very carefully. Let's have a look.
Books of the Bible, Proverbs. So part of God's story is a book in the Bible called Proverbs, and it goes like this. The Bible is made up of all kinds of stories, poems, and letters, and it's all about God. The Bible has two parts, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The book of Proverbs is in the Old Testament, right after Psalms, but before Ecclesiastes. We call it a book, but it's really a group of 31 poems and sayings from ancient Israel. We know most of the Proverbs came from King Solomon because, well, it says so. When Solomon became king of Israel, he asked God for wisdom, and God gave it to him. Being able to know what's true and right and then actually do it, that's being wise, or having wisdom. Wisdom is what the book of Proverbs is really all about. Proverbs 9:10 says, "If you want to become wise, you must begin by respecting the Lord. To know the Holy One is to gain understanding." In other words, all wisdom comes from God. So if we want to become wiser, we should try to get to know God better. One way to do that is to read, memorize, and practice the Proverbs. Some Proverbs help us remember to trust God, like Proverbs 18:19. "The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The godly run to it and are safe." That means whenever we feel scared or worried, it's wise for us to talk with God about it and ask Him to take care of us. Picture someone running from danger, seeing a tall, strong tower in the distance and going toward it for safety. In the same way, God is always a safe place. Some Proverbs just tell us the truth about the world. In Proverbs 6, there's an ant who acts wisely because it stores up its food in summer. It gathers its food at harvest time. Like the ant, we can make wise plans for the future and work hard today. Some Proverbs are a little confusing or even unusual to us today, but they still show us something true. Proverbs 26:11 says, "As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly." It's kinda gross to imagine, right? If it's so gross, why would a dog go back to it? That's sorta how God feels when He sees people sin, and sin some more, and then do it again. He wants to help us turn away from it and never go back. So some Proverbs show us God's wisdom for how we live and treat others. Proverbs 3:3 says, "Never let loyalty and kindness get away from you. Wear them like a necklace. Write them deep within your heart." A kind person's good actions shine outward to others like a beautiful necklace. But even more importantly, their goodness comes from deep inside their heart. It's like what Proverbs 7 says, "Guard my teachings as you would guard your own eyes. Tie them on your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart." See, the point of reading Proverbs isn't just to fill our minds with knowledge about God. The Proverbs help us learn God's wisdom with all our heart, body, and soul. In other words, to trust that He knows what's best for us and live the way He wants us to. Maybe that's why the most famous proverb is Proverbs 3:5-6. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your path." Basically, we can trust God with anything in our lives, even when we don't understand. For thousands of years, people have memorized that verse and made songs out of it. And God likes it when we talk about trusting Him. But He loves it when we actually trust Him. And that's a little about the book of the Bible called Proverbs. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. The Proverbs are poems and short sayings. They're in the Old Testament. Most were written by King Solomon. Wisdom is about respecting God. God is like a strong tower. Wise people are like hard-working ants. Fools are like dogs eating their own puke. God cares about our hearts. The Proverbs help us to trust God. And that's a part of God's story.
All right. Favorite time, kids versus adults quiz. I don't have any prizes, unfortunately, but you can go home and feel satisfied and gloat against your parents or your kids, whoever wins. All right, kids, if you're watching the video, Proverbs appears before which book in the Bible? Alana? Is it Psalms? Oh, Ecclesiastes. That's 0. All right. Don't know how to deal with that. All right. Parents, who wrote most of the Proverbs? Hang on, don't help them, kids. Dale. King Solomon. All right. Kids versus adults. I said parents there. I meant to say adults. It is King Solomon. All right. 1 to the adults, 0 to the kids. All right. Kids, finish Proverbs 9 and 10. If you want to become wise, you must begin by understanding God. I like that. Archie, I like, what was yours? Trusting in the Lord. Respecting the Lord will give you that same meaning. All right. So, 1 all. Adults, according to Proverbs chapter 6, what wise animal stores up its food in summer? Hanky, well done. Good man. All right, 2-1. All right, kids, this is what we're talking about before, girls. Proverbs, this is from 26. This is from the section that we're going to read tonight, and it's from the video. So it's doing double duty. Proverbs 26:11. As a dog returns to its vomit, which is gross, that's like a dog that vomits and then goes back to it to eat it up. So just if you've had dinner recently or you're about to, just try to put that image out of your mind. But this is an image of something that Proverbs wants to tell us about. Jackson.
Well, we sin a lot, and we sin so much that God wants us to turn around.
Okay. I like that. So we don't want to go back to its vomit. We want to stop sinning. Oh, look, that's pretty close to me. Anyone want to build on Jackson's answer? So as a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. So what's that? That's 2 all, isn't it? Yes. But the kids have had 1 extra question. All right, now, because we're talking about fools and folly, the next 5 questions don't relate to the video. They relate to famous fools in history. Okay, so this one's for the adults. Read carefully. 1999, Excite, which was a major search engine back then. If you may be of an age, you may remember it. They turned down an offer to buy what company? For $750,000, a decision made by then full CEO George Bell, who found the cost to be too expensive. Google. It is Google. Wow. Imagine buying Google. In the Google. Correct. Correct. Just testing you. Yeah. Yeah. It's testing you. Yeah. All right. Kids. This one's a bit harder and a bit grosser. We've already had vomit, so just along that vein. In 1972, the Oregon Health Department discovered that many of the chunks in... Matt and Kathleen can see the answer on the screen. All right, don't give it away. They discovered that the chunks in... I'm not sure if this is appropriate. Hoodie's chunky style peanut butter. So some fool in the manufacturing department of Hoodie's peanut butter factory, they were actually something else. What were they? Any guesses? This is for the kids. I know, Vicky, you may have an answer here. Archer? Huh? Expired? No, the chunks, there was some other material that you wouldn't expect to find in peanut butter. Eve? Not rocks. They discovered rat droppings. Oh. Yeah, so massive fool, whoever was in that factory. All right, so I think I've forgotten the score, but I don't care. All right, in 1631 edition of the King James Bible, there was an error with one of the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20. What did it say? This is for the adults. Anyone? Thou shalt commit murder. That's it. Didn't include the crucial word not. So, very silly, very foolish. Question 9. All right, for the kids. When translated for a marketing campaign in China, KFC's famous slogan, finger licking good, actually said what? Hambo? Lick your finger. I will take that. Eat your fingers off. There you go. That's how good KFC is. You will start eating your fingers off. Last question. This is for the adults, I think, or the kid, whatever. I think the adults have won, to be fair, already. All right. When the Pope visited Miami, a local T-shirt maker mistranslated the phrase, "I saw the Pope," and if you know Spanish, which I don't, and they used "La Papa" instead of "El Papa." What did the T-shirt say? Oh, good guess. Oh, I saw the potato. Beth, yes. All right, so it's a definite win for the adults. Round of applause. The adults have done really well there. Famous fools. Famous fools. All right. Now we're going to spend some time thinking about Proverbs chapter 26 now. If you have a Bible, now's a good time to open it because I'm going to read it for us. You can grab them from the back corner if you want, so I'll give you a minute to do that. Or open up on your device. Don't forget on the worksheets, some of the answers to the questions will come as we read this passage and think about it for a few minutes. Now, I've told you that this series is all about 4 faces of folly, four kinds of living that are really silly and stupid. And verses 1 to 12 focus on the character of the fool. So I want to give you a challenge. As I read this passage, I want you to tell me how many times we read the word fool. All right, are we ready? Proverbs chapter 26, verses 1 to 12. Like snow in summer and rain at harvest, honour is inappropriate for a fool. Like a flitting sparrow or a fluttering swallow, an undeserved curse goes nowhere. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the back of fools. Don't answer a fool according to his foolishness, or you'll be like him yourself. Answer a fool according to his foolishness, or he'll become wise in his own eyes. The one who sends a message by a fool's hand cuts off his own feet and drinks violence. A proverb in the mouth of a fool is like lame legs that hang limp. Giving honour to a fool is like binding a stone in a sling. A proverb in the mouth of a fool is like a stick with thorns brandished by the hand of a drunkard. The one who hires a fool or who hires those passing by is like an archer who wounds everyone indiscriminately. Here's my favourite one. As a dog returns to its vomit, so also a fool repeats his foolishness. Do you see a person who is wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. All right, keep that part of the Bible open. We're going to just think about this passage for a few minutes. And clearly, actually, how many fools were there? Did anyone?
I'm just saying, if you count stuff like foolish and stuff,
Okay.
then there's 14.
Fool. Okay, so 14. Fool and its sort of other words like that. Fool asterisk, if you're a nerd and know how to do proper search functioning. I see a few nerds. Fool asterisk, 14. All right. Did anyone get a different number? I wasn't keeping track. It sounds about right. This passage has 12 verses and it mentions fool or foolishness 14 times. So it's definitely about the fool. So I want to answer 3 questions for us. What is a fool? How should we treat a fool? And how do we avoid becoming a fool? 3 really important questions. So sometimes we use the word fool to describe someone we don't like or someone silly, but in Proverbs, the fool is a very important character, and they're presented by the author of Proverbs as someone who's the opposite of being wise. So we read in Proverbs chapter 1, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. So when I think of a fool, I think of someone that doesn't want to learn or be corrected. Someone that thinks they know everything, and rather than chasing wisdom, they're content just to be silly and never learn. And in chapter 26, we get a few pictures that help us see what a fool might look like. Obviously, verse 11, famous now, a dog returns to its vomit, so also a fool repeats his foolishness. So imagine making a mistake that damages you and damages other people, like forgetting to put sunscreen on your kids or something like that, or hurting someone with nasty words, or driving a car with your boot open. Imagine making a silly mistake and not learning from it, and instead being happy to do it again and again and again, just like a dog eating its vomit. It's actually silly. A fool repeats their foolishness. And verse 12 shows us something important about the fool. Do you see a person who is wise in their own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. In other words, a fool is someone who is wise in their own eyes. They think they know everything, but in reality, they don't. And they're not willing to be corrected. One thing of the fool in Proverbs, I picture someone in a group setting who just never reads the room. Now, I'm not talking about, on a once or twice, or someone that does it innocently and somewhat playfully. I'm thinking of someone in group settings always says the wrong thing and laughs about it, not realising how silly that makes themselves look or how hurtful they are. Someone who's always got opinions about what's going on that aren't necessarily thought through or popular or carefully considered, or someone that just thinks before they speak. That's my image of a fool. What about you? When you think of a fool or someone that doesn't want to learn, keeps repeating mistakes, thinks they're wise in their own eyes, who comes into your mind? Maybe there's someone in your life that you think, that person I think is a fool, the type of fool we read about in Proverbs. So a fool is someone that never wants to learn, repeats their mistakes, and is wise in their own eyes. Now, of course, the worst type of fool in the Bible are people that think they're wiser than God and they don't need him. Look at this verse from Romans chapter 1. Though they knew God, and this is what's scary about this. This is describing everyone in humanity, including us. Though they knew God, they did not glorify him as God or show gratitude. Instead, their thinking became worthless and their senseless hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Claiming to be wise, they became fools. And that's the way the Bible describes everyone that's ever lived when we reject God, who's our creator. It's silly. And we become fools for doing it. So, what is a fool? Not just someone that thinks they're wiser than they are or repeats their folly. The biggest fool is someone that rejects the Creator and thinks they can go on living without acknowledging and serving God. So, how should we treat a fool? When we look at Proverbs chapter 26, a lot of it is about how we interact with people that we consider fools. Remember Proverbs from the video? Lots of wise sayings about how to live in the world. The truth is there's fools out there, and we want to be careful about the way we interact with them. We want to live wisely in this world that God has made. So how should we treat a fool? Well, number one of the themes is we don't give them power and responsibility. This is what verse 1 is saying, just like snow in summer and rain in harvest doesn't fit, it's not fitting, doesn't make sense, honour is inappropriate for a fool. You don't put someone in a high position of power who's a fool. And second, you don't give them important jobs to do. Verse 6, the one who sends a message by a fool's hand cuts off his own feet and drinks violence. Now, for the school kids in here, when I was at primary school, sometimes my teacher would appoint someone in class and give them a message to take to the office. Does that still happen? Yeah? Who do they normally choose? Like kids that can, responsible kids, yeah? Would you agree? Yeah. Maybe they send the naughty kids if they want a break, but I think generally speaking, they give the important jobs to kids they can trust, that are responsible. And it's the same in all areas of life. We don't want to give responsibility and important jobs to fools who can't be trusted. So, we don't give power and responsibility to fools. The second, we don't listen to them. Someone comes along who's a fool, saying, trying to give advice about things they don't know about. What does it say? A proverb in the mouth of the fool is like lame legs that hang limp. Lame legs that hang limp, they don't do what they're meant to do. Legs are all going well. Legs help us stand up, help us walk, help us run, maybe help us kick a soccer ball. But lame legs that hang limp, as sad as that is, they're not doing what they're meant to do. And so a word of wisdom in the mouth of a fool isn't actually very helpful at all. You don't want to listen to that because it's probably not right. Same in verse 9. A proverb in the mouth of a fool is like a stick with thorns brandished by the hand of a drunkard. That means it's dangerous. Imagine someone who's had too many drinks and they've got a stick with thorns on the end and they're just wandering around not looking where they're going. That can cause damage and can be harmful. Same as a proverb in the mouth of a fool. Not only is it not worth listening to, in fact, it's worth avoiding because they can do some damage. So we don't give power and responsibility to fools. We don't listen to fools. But you know what? As I reflected on this, we know that we're fools sometimes because we've rejected God. But something struck me as I prepared to talk about fools. And it's this. Jesus doesn't treat us like the fools we are sometimes. In fact, he does the opposite to what we read in Proverbs. Look at John 15. This is Jesus speaking to his disciples the night before he died. He said, I have made known to you everything I've heard from my Father. In other words, Jesus entrusted important truths to his disciples who he knew were sinful, who he knew had the potential to be fools. But he made everything known to them that he's heard from the Father. And Acts chapter 1, more responsibility. You will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. What did we just read? You don't give a fool power and responsibility, but Jesus, he loves us and he doesn't treat us like fools. He treats us like friends and partners. He gives us responsibility to be his witnesses throughout the world. Now, why is that? I think as we come to answer the third question, we'll see that. But because Jesus doesn't treat us like fools, we come to the conclusion of this second point. How should we treat a fool? Well, we don't want to look down on them and judge them, identifying fools and thinking we're better than them, because we know that we're fools sometimes. But second, we are careful and wise about giving them jobs to do and how much we listen to them. So we don't look down and judge, but we are careful. And those two things can go together. All right. How do we treat a fool? Not judging, but carefully. How do we avoid becoming a fool? This is really important, isn't it? If the fool is so bad, we don't want to be a fool. We don't want to become a fool. How can we avoid becoming the kind of fool we read about in Proverbs chapter 26? Well, I think the reason Jesus doesn't treat us like fools is because he saves us and changes us. This is from Romans chapter 12, speaking about Christian people that have been saved and changed. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. God gives us not just new hearts, but new minds, the ability to live well in this world and read the room, so to speak. He humbles us, chapter 12, verse 6, so that we don't think we're smarter than we are. Do not be wise in your own estimation. Only a few verses later. How do we avoid becoming a fool? Well, we ask God to change us. Let's keep reading. The way God changes us is as we listen to Jesus' words. One of the most famous fools in the Bible comes from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Maybe you know the story about the wise builder and the foolish builder in Matthew chapter 7. Who knows the story? Two builders. We know it's a famous story that Jesus told. One builder built his house on the rock, and another builder built his house on the sand. And then a storm came along, and the guy that built his house on the sand, his house was washed away. The guy that built his house on the rock, his house was safe and stable. And this is what Jesus says. He says, everyone who hears these words of mine, the way he teaches us to live, and doesn't act on them, will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain fell, the rivers rose, the wind blew and pounded the house, and it collapsed. And it collapsed with a great crash. So if we don't want to become a fool, we need to listen to Jesus' words and live like him. So how do we... Well, there's another typo there for you, Craig. How do we avoid becoming a fool? It's not a case of just being smart. No, we listen to Jesus' words and we live his way. So we've learned a lot tonight, haven't we? The fool in Proverbs is someone we definitely want to be careful with, not listening to them, not giving them power and responsibility. We don't judge them. On the contrary, you remember that even though we've been fools, Jesus treats us better than we deserve, and he changes us. And we can become wise if we build our lives on his words. Why don't I pray? Heavenly Father, thank you for what we learn in Proverbs chapter 26. We're sorry for the times that we be your witnesses in the world. Give us wisdom and care as we encounter people around us who may be fools. Help us to be careful in our interactions with them. And above all, help us to grow in wisdom so that we would live like Jesus. We pray in his name.